All right, we're good now.
Where were you when I ran?
Hey everybody, it is Monday night. It is 7 o'clock. That means it's time for the yard sign. I'm JonnyTorres. Thank you so much for watching. I know we've been away for a little bit. We're working on some big things for 2021 behind the scenes. Can't wait to tell you all about all the cool stuff we have planned for you guys. It's going to take the whole show to a whole new level, a whole new audience. I'm incredibly excited about it. We're going to be partnering with some friends that are, have always been really supportive of what we're trying to do here. And the show is just going to blow up next year, and I'm incredibly excited about it. Almost as excited as I am about today's guest panelist. So we'll get to that in a second. First of all, let's go ahead and run down today's topics. We are doing COVID Part 2. We're seeing spikes all across the country of the coronavirus, and magically, the masks don't seem to be getting the job done. Also, of course, the timing could not have been any better, as the vaccine is now ready post-election, and as predicted. So we'll pick apart, how that's going to roll out, the pros and cons, and who's going to get it and who's not. Also, believe it or not, it is also time to start looking at 2022. What do the midterm elections look like? Who are some of the players that we're going to see? Are we going to see some new faces, some old faces? We'll pick that apart with today's panel and Biden's first 100 days. For some reason, it's it's kind of the milestone of any administration, and again, so far seems like Biden will be taking office at the towards the end of January, and so we'll do some predictions and some dissection of what we might be able to expect from President-elect Joe Biden. But before we do that, going to go ahead and go over to the table, as all my gentlemen friends are intensely focused on their electronic devices. From right to left, we'll start off right to left. That gentleman there that we always love having on the show, especially when he's scarfed up, that is Mr. Anibal Cabrera.
Yes.
I know, I wasn't even being sarcastic this time.
No, I'm actually very happy that the temperature has allowed me to start wearing scarves. I think it is an addition to everyone's motif as an addition to the season.
And now you can wrap it around your face, and it's like an instant mask, and just tie it around your face, and then you don't have to carry a mask and
I'm not going to do that. You lose the silhouette of having the scarf lay on you, and then you match it with the face mask.
You can do both.
You could be like the kids in Charlie Brown, where the scarf just comes up to like halfway up their face.
The point of the scarf is fashion, not for utility of a mask.
Oh,
if you had a
excuse
mask
me.
that matched your scarf, that would be fashion.
Yes.
I don't have that kind of
that would be next
disposable
level
income, but thank you.
Next
I am
level.
going to try now.
Well, from the flannel, we move to the Argyle, and that is Chris VerKuilen. Always looking sharp, my friend. How are you?
Good to see you. I've missed you all. I've been out. I just had a surgery on my arm to get some steel taken out.
I know.
I'm glad to be back with you guys.
No longer the
after,
Iron Man.
No longer the Iron Man. I can't be claiming to be a bionic anymore, but also the Argyle is wonderful. Like I'm going to wear this like 2 times a year in Florida.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Well, I always appreciate you dressing up, and also looking incredibly sharp, as always, because if you ever run into this guy anywhere around town, he's always looking like $1 million. For the first time on the yard sign, please welcome Aakash Patel. What's going on, man?
Thank you so much for having me. Long-time listener, first-time viewer, I guess, a first-time panelist.
I know, and we've been talking about it for months, and for one reason or another, we just hadn't been able to make it happen. But thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you on. A lot of people, they see your business side, right? Like they see the side of you that's networking, the side of you that's out there making deals, making things happen, introducing people. But not a lot of people know your political side, so I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, thanks again, and really appreciate all you're doing for the local party. And I mean, we've known each other for a long time. I look at this 2012 sign.
Yeah,
those were the good old days.
I know. Yeah, that was early on in our friendship.
Yeah.
I remember, actually, I have a fond memory of a cool meeting we had at Hat Tricks.
That's right, with Garrett Johnson.
Which is actually one of my favorite sports bars, I think, anywhere. I mean, Hat Tricks is one of a kind, and it's certainly one of the best sports bars in Tampa, right?
For sure.
If you go after duckies.
Oh, no. Look, only if Longoria was like literally seating you, if he was playing host at the front, then I might agree with you. But other than that, Duckies doesn't hold a candle to hat tricks, not on its best day.
Don't at me, bro.
All right, COVID part 2. As we see the cases spike all across the country, we are, of course, seeing some disparity in the caseloads and, of course, the handling of. And as expected, Democrats, while a little in power, very loud in their criticism of Governor DeSantis because Governor DeSantis has decided, no lockdowns, no mandates, even putting his foot down and saying that even the counties and the cities need to kind of take it easy with the mask mandates. And so, I mean, do you guys see a particular trend? And I'll kind of chime in later, but do you guys see a particular trend among red states, blue states, the different ways this is being handled in terms of what's effective and what's not?
It's funny you actually asked this because yesterday I spent 2 hours of my time compiling a list of the states, their senior populations, and their death rates by seniors, or senior death rates by population. And I sorted them by highest to lowest and assigned each state a blue or red label based on the success of each party in the last 4 elections. And what I found was the first 5 on that list, on the bad side, were all blue states. And as much as I don't think that anyone has a particularly good handle on it, I think it has to do with a lot of population density in particular. But what you're seeing is everyone saying Democrats are doing the right thing because they're doing these lockdowns, they're doing these mask mandates, they're doing all these restrictive actions on the people, and they're not having any goods to show for it. And you have the middle of the list that I generated filled with red states, and it goes to show that these red states that haven't done these things are doing just as well on the COVID front, but their economic situation is remaining much stronger than the blue states have.
I feel that we're definitely seeing a do as I say, not as I do situation. A lot of hypocrisy is really starting to show in the different states that are occurring at the moment. Governor Huckabee made a great commentary about it, that there are a lot of churches in California that are not allowed to be open, but strip clubs are completely allowed to be open in California because the adult entertainers need paychecks as well. And so the way that they did that aspect of to still have church services is that the pastors in 2 churches in California, and if I can look at it real quick.
They hire strippers?
No, the main pastor actually did a striptease during service, which was for 30 seconds, which then classified the church as a strip club, so then they were allowed to have more than 10 people at the service.
I mean, look, being raised Catholic, I mean, Jesus was always half naked anyways. So, I mean, it was...
clothing was optional.
Look, and then, the tithing comes around, and so it gets awkward. It's just if you don't put something in the basket.
Johnny, I think it really shows how lucky we are to live in Florida. We always knew we were lucky because of the taxes, the weather, and the whole less traffic. But you think about Governor DeSantis and his leadership, and then even our local elected officials, who majority are Democrat in Hillsborough, they're still out there doing ribbon cuttings and acting normal, and the businesses are thriving. I had 3 events last week, so the community and the business community is out. Restaurants are booming and opening.
Correct.
I mean, you think about how many jobs probably were cut in hospitality. As tourism is our big industry here in Florida, and I think I just joined the board of Visit Tampa Bay, our local tourism agency, and I mean they're expecting next week big conventions are going to be back. Next year, sorry. 2021.
Well, look, I mean, in here, we here in Tampa, we have the most to lose. I mean, we got the Super Bowl coming up, which I know you're also very much involved with. And if you don't mind, really, just not to, go off on too much of a tangent, but could you give us a little bit of an idea of what some of the discussions are being had, kind of how it's being discussed as to, what the expectations are, how this is going to be handled given today's numbers and kind of what we're seeing right now?
Well, unfortunately, they canceled the Gasparilla Parade, which was going to be a big draw for tourists.
I thought they moved the Gasparilla.
Well, they moved it. Sorry, they moved it to April. But we are going to have all the outdoor activities, it looks like, on the Riverwalk. And they're going to have to wear masks, and they're going to have temperature checks. And the fans for the stadium as of right now is 13%, which is what the Bucks have. Anyway, if you go to a football game, home game right now, it's about 14,000 fans or so, maybe a little more. I went to the Monday night game a couple weeks ago, and it's interesting. They actually tape off the seats. So you can't even try to sneak into your friend's sections. They zip line the seats. So I think that's what you're going to see in Tampa on February 7th. But
now, what are those numbers? Is it about half the capacity of the stadium? Not even, right? I think it's like,
the
what,
number
like a
that
third?
I've heard that it's going to get to is hopefully like 20,000. They published about that.
Right now, where's it at, though?
13%. So
Okay.
about 14,000.
So actually, we were watching a college hockey game, and they had seats cordoned off, but everyone was sitting in the same section.
Right. If you're with family and you bought the seats together, then you can sit together.
Everyone in the entire stadium was sitting in the same two sections. Is that how it is at the Buck Stadium?
No.
Was this in Canada?
It's like-
Where was this at?
No, Canada, you can't have fans.
Idaho, Wisconsin.
It was a
They don't
college
care.
game. Yeah.
It's college.
No, you can. Yeah, they don't have that. They don't have that.
Okay.
They have it. So like 4 in a row, and then skip 10, and then 4 more in a row.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I would hope it wouldn't be so nonsensical in Florida.
But Johnny, like I'm going to the opening of a new hotel next week, the JW Marriott in downtown, which has to be open for the Super Bowl because they're expecting.
That place looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to have the Raptors, which by the way, because Canada can't have the basketball, so the Raptors are starting next week, and we're going to get those fans, and that's where the JW is where the Raptors will be practicing. So I think
I know some people have been joking about it, but it may be worth giving it a shot. Trading the Rays for the Raptors. I'm just putting it out there. I mean, look, I love baseball. I grew up playing baseball, but I mean, the Amalie Arena is just such an amazing venue, and the Trop is the Trop. And you know what? I think they're going to see a huge response from Tampa Bay for these Raptor games. I myself, I can't wait. Drake or no Drake.
Even with all the BLM support from the NBA and their use of Chinese slave labor to produce their jerseys and shoes.
Well, I didn't say I'd
go
pay
straight there. My goodness.
I didn't say I'd pay for my tickets. I mean, look, I don't buy jerseys. I don't buy sneakers. I don't buy any of that stuff. I mean, that's where they get their money. I
want to say that it's a great
Do I
get.
enjoy watching sports? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it's a great get for the city of Tampa, for the Tampa Bay area. I think it's awesome. We're going to be able to see that kind of constant movement happening, coming back to the city of Tampa, coming back to downtown, and it's going to be enjoyable. I will say something I have missed this entire COVID season is restaurant openings. I'm not going to lie. That's what I love going to when everything was up and about, going to business networking events, going to just visiting friends and family and being able to just put money back into the economy. And in places like Florida, you have that ability to go back and forth and be able to do that. And restaurants are still being very safe. Everyone has a mask if you're not eating, and there's like plexiglass in different places. But I couldn't even imagine being in California and not being able to go to a restaurant, not being able to support my friends that own restaurants, but yet see the governor of Governor Newsom.
Gavin Newsom, yeah.
Go to the French Laundry and be able to have I think it was like a $50,000 dinner, which is not that surprising if you've been to the French Laundry, just because like starting is like $300 and something for a plate there. It's absolutely insane. It's a great experience, but it's an insane.
I've not been.
tag.
So what did you get there?
So we got a frog ball and we got little vegetables and like carrots it's very French.
Julienne.
Yeah, it's very French, but like you can see like their like garden and farm across the street. So it's a cool like farm to table. You're spending the money, and we didn't spend the money. So we were. It was a gift from a family friend. I'm going to leave it at that. It was a great experience.
So what you're saying though is, if you're a governor, then the COVID doesn't get you.
I want to say if you are an elected official, it doesn't harm Democrat elected officials.
It sees your blue check mark and
Yep.
Yeah, because remember, you don't get it also if you're sitting at a restaurant and you're sitting down. But I think they're closing restaurants, they're closing bars, they're allowing strip clubs to stay open. They've closed churches and a lot of other establishments in California. So I couldn't imagine the hypocrisy and how people are really starting to get pissed off in California.
It's everywhere. You have the governor of California, you have the mayor of Austin, you have the mayor of San Francisco, the mayor of Los Angeles, a whole slew of Democratic elected officials in California and across the country, like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago,
Yes.
A handful of other ones, doing things that they dictate are not okay for you, but it's okay for them because Lori Lightfoot said that, I'm a public figure, so I have to get my hair cut so I look good on national TV. Excuse the F out of me.
You give these elected officials a little bit of power and they take the entire thing. I'm not going to be surprised if you see more. I mean, you have candidates now that are talking about mandating people wearing masks and mandating that people take the vaccine that's coming down the pike. And it's very scary to think that you're going to have to, you don't want to have to push back, but you're going to have to push back as an individual, as an American citizen, if they keep on pushing their narrative, especially in the press and everything else, about wanting the mandate. Again, I wear a mask. Odds are we'll probably we won't take the first dose of the vaccine, but it's my personal choice. And I think that's what people are forgetting. But some states are really thinking about making it into a mandate. But
all right, but you're getting ahead of today's agenda.
Correct.
Because we were talking about, obviously, now that we're seeing a spike, and it's not just national, it's across the globe, right? We're seeing the second wave of this virus. Again, we see the disparity in how it's being handled. And honestly, to me, as I've always said, is that I don't think they've got this thing figured out. I don't think they other than this vaccine, I don't think they know how to stop it other than by this vaccine. And because, I mean, again, masks have been enforced. There's been some relaxing of the mask mandates, but overall, I mean, no matter what state you're in or what city you're in, I mean, I see the people wearing masks and I see people being careful, and nonetheless, it doesn't seem to have a really huge effect on the numbers. Look at New York, California, Florida, Texas. I mean, they're all showing similar trends despite the disparity in how they're handling the virus.
It really comes down to being an emotional thing. People want some kind of safety. They want some kind of visual representation of something that's going to help them avoid what they think is certain death. So you have, these people that are afraid and they need something, So
yeah, I mean, there's those folks that are going to get angry, at you because you're not wearing your mask while you're driving your car, or because you take it off for a minute, and I mean, I literally had a guy, just yell profanities at me because for less than 30 seconds I got within maybe 4 or 5 feet of him. Yeah, and so people are incredible. There's some people that are very paranoid about this thing, but then those are the people that shouldn't be out in the first place. This guy is yelling at me because I'm 5 feet away from him or 4 feet away from him without a mask, and yet he's at a high school football game surrounded by hundreds of people. and so there's that logic again that makes no sense to me. If you are that worried about getting sick, why are you out on a Friday night at a football field with hundreds of people?
I saw this guy, he was on Daily Wire today, this TikToker, this Democrat TikToker, this little kid, go to a Trump rally in Georgia, this one that was this past Saturday or Sunday, and he was begging people in line to put on a mask. He's like, people are dying, I'm so afraid of this. It's like, well, if the mask is protecting you and not me, and I'm not wearing it, and you're that afraid of it, why are you here next to me in this line?
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Right.
And I really think that this is, I mean, it's naive to think that one of nature's oldest, most powerful forces, microbiological, organisms, thinking you can control that as a human being is incredibly naive and incredibly arrogant.
Yeah. No, look, there was another podcast I was listening to recently, and the guy's a virologist, and he was saying that in any given gallon of water, there are like 10,000 viruses. That we ingest, and we just don't realize it, and it doesn't have any major effect on us. Again, I think once this vaccine rolls out, I think we're going to see the numbers drop. I think, is it going to be like a flu thing where we're dealing with this every year? I don't even think so. I think we may be dealing with this. I think we'll deal with this maybe for another year or so, but I don't think it's going to be a perpetual problem, like the flu is every year.
I think we're going to see, and I want to hear Aakash's opinion about this in regards to what do you think the outcome is now that we have a vaccine? Oh, I'm sorry. Seeing that, to get back to the original conversation we were having, is how do you think Florida is going to benefit, and more or less the Tampa Bay area, now that you see what's happening around the country and more people are flocking to our state?
Well, it's funny because 200 people a day leave New York City. They're leaving New York and they're coming to Florida. We don't know what part of Florida. We know 1,000 people a day come to Florida. We assume about a third of that is in the Tampa area. But you can see the housing market's crazy, right? You can see the beaches are getting busier. And during its holiday season, so what happens? People in the north flee to the winter, right? Or they come home for the winter, they come to the south. So I think, and the airports are slammed.
Yes.
Now. And what you're seeing in the rapid tests, they're skyrocketing. It's pretty funny because if you go to Tampa Airport, that that is where I go if I want a rapid test, because it's just easy in and out. You get to park for the first hour free, right? And you get in and out in 20 minutes, you get results, and it's $60. And you can get insurance to reimburse you. So,
wow.
So, and people don't know it's like a hidden gem, because the other places like CVS, Walgreens, TGH are urgent care. You have to go and make an appointment. Tampa Airport, you just go drive up. So I think Tampa is going to definitely be, and like you said, it's spiking for sure here, Johnny. But at the same time, people want to come where they know they're going to enjoy. And so if you're going to get sick, why not get sick in Paradise? Really, and they're going out. I mean, look, I'm going to the opening of a restaurant in Ybor City called Copper Shaker on Wednesday night. They have one in St. Pete. They're opening in Ybor, and I already know it's like the list is busy, and people that are going to be there, they're going to be like, okay, wow, it's too crowded, but you know what you're doing when you go there, right? And you wear your mask.
You can see what's happening before you walk in the door.
Yeah, and you take that risk every time you leave your house, whether you're going to wear a mask or not. You're taking that risk, and so able to answer your question, I just think that the first couple months of shock are really over, and now people have accepted it, or they just, like I see my dad normally every Sunday. I didn't see him this Sunday because I was out last week at an event, and I don't want to compromise loved ones that are elderly.
And that's how you fight it. That's the best way to do it, is to isolate those who are vulnerable.
And I think that's what we're missing the picture here. And I think we've all said this already, is that it's personal responsibility. You're making the choice to go out. I went to Disney World a few weeks ago, besides this past Sunday. And I
did go a few weeks, I thought so.
And we ran into a few Karens. And it took everything inside of me not to snap back the first time. Every other time I did. And because then you realize that they're being such hypocrites when they're making these comments about 6 feet and wear your mask and everything else. You're already wearing your mask the whole time at Disney. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's no way that you cannot be 6 feet away from someone. So when someone says, please move back 6 feet, she literally said, you're not 6 feet away. I'm like, well, then you take a step back. Why are you telling me to do something when you should be doing it yourself? And that's the response that needs to happen, because and I'm going to say now, these individuals that think that they are allowed to push back are bullies. They're trying to bully you into behaving a certain way. And you can't let them do that. You cannot allow them to bully you. The same way they were no longer allowing the Karens of the world to push back when it comes to what they do, we have to push back also as Republicans, conservatives, and those that understand what this situation is occurring when it comes to the medical field.
It's not working well, though. You've seen a strong element in Tampa and in Pinellas County of people pushing back, and it's not doing a damn thing.
Wow.
It's achieving nothing. You have these left officials that are letting it go in one ear, out the other, or maybe not even in one ear. And you're seeing like the BOCC in Pinellas County. They just got reelected, so they're emboldened, and now you're seeing you see these like people like Ron DeSantis is saying, oh, we're not going to have anyone enforce these fines and these restrictions, but the BOCC is doing it anyway, and they're basically counting on lawsuits, and judges aren't taking them. So what do you do after that?
You have to
deal with it is what you're going to do.
You have to go through the court system. That's the only way that this is going to occur. The amount of lawsuits that's probably going to happen in the next 6 months is astronomical.
Yep. That's going to be after like businesses are dead.
But it's going to be individuals that are going to push. Because again, I see, yes, in New York and California and other big blue states, business is going to be impossible to restart. I mean, now there's a big video out there now that shows a woman walking around the parking lot of her business that they had to close down as a restaurant, even though she spent like $100,000 to put up tents and be able to eat outside and cook outside. And there's a production company doing the same thing, but they're allowed to stay open, but she has to close.
It's 5 times as big too.
Which the irony of all that is that she's literally building a structure outside of another structure to run her business. And we're seeing this. I mean, there's that one picture in New York, I think, that's gone viral, where they're literally building basically an extension to the restaurant right across the sidewalk so that they can seat people outside. Well, that defeats the whole purpose of people eating outside.
And we did it here in Tampa called Lift Up Local, and they've extended that. And it's great for Hyde Park, downtown Tampa, and Ybor City. And it's just funny because you're just getting more people coming downtown. So
exactly.
So, Akash, when you're talking to people leaving New York City and these Democrat states to come here, do you think it's a permanent thing or do you think it's temporary?
I think, it's a great question. I think what you're going to find is second homes here, and they're going to make this, 6 months in a day for the tax purposes. Because these are corporations, CEOs that are finding high-rise condos on the water, and now it's time they're forcing themselves. They're like, man, life's short. The city that you go to New York City for the nightlife and the Broadways and the excitement and all the restaurants. But if all that closes, Florida's open. Why not come here? So I think you're also seeing a lot of satellite offices of
Open
companies
up.
moving here. Because remember, talent is cheap here compared to the New York and the other big states.
Oh yeah, the salary differences are like.
Well, not only
60%?
that, now that you can't network, you can't have those in-person meetings. Well, then again, what good does it do you to be in New York? Because, and especially as we get closer to the winter and it gets real cold and it's going to start snowing and all that stuff. If you're going to be remote, why not be remote somewhere where you're going to be comfortable and somewhere where you can actually live your life a little bit rather than being locked down in New York
New York City. Is dead. I mean, look about office space and that. Why do you need office space if you can just Zoom all day, right?
And that's going to be interesting to see how that when we are having a more of a herd, and people are starting to get the vaccine more. When do offices reopen? I know that some offices in New York were trying to force their staff to come back because they're killing their local economies where those office towers are dead, where no one's going for lunch, no one's getting drinks afterwards. That economy is dying because New York has such strict requirements on what they're allowed to do when it comes to open and close. And now you have, I think it's either JP Morgan or one of the big 5 financial firms just announced that they're looking for a big satellite office in Florida to move out of New York, which is great.
Tax harbor.
No, if you're a company in New York or California and you want to give your people a tax an income increase, you move to Texas, or you move to Arizona, you move to Florida, and just there you give them an increase because of all the benefits of living in the South.
Well, and even the real estate play. I mean, look at what City did, and look at the massive complex that they own out in Eastern Hillsborough County. Again, it's ghost town right now, but they're still sitting on a pretty huge piece of real estate. And at some point, I think all that commercial real estate comes back, in some shape or form. But I think this is going to be a turning point where some of that evolves, and maybe we see more of a concentration of like what they're trying to do at University Mall, where they're trying to mix residential with commercial with retail. And I think that's the natural kind of next step for all of this. But again, I mean, we've had the technology to do everything we're doing now. We just really weren't maximizing it. And this has forced businesses, big and small, to leverage technology that's already out there. And it's made them realize, I mean, actually, I was talking to a business owner from South Florida. He owned a production company. He had an office space that he was working out of for 20 years and did not re-sign his commercial real estate contract because he didn't need it.
Yeah.
He can't see his clients in person, and it was a small kind of office. So he doesn't want to be in a small enclosed space with other people. And so he just got rid of it and he put all his stuff in storage.
I know 2 mortgage companies that have not renewed their leases, and they were able to bring everyone home. They were able to give them the equipment, and their production levels are even higher than before. Now, I will say that's a detriment to American society, not having that work-life balance break. But we're all workaholics on this table, so I don't see difficulties.
Well, also, I mean, as you probably know this, real estate is your biggest overhead. If you can get rid of that, you can pay people more. You can, invest more in your business and equipment, or in, whatever capital you need.
Productivity. You don't drive in traffic. Yep. You don't need a lunch break. You're just going to work when you need to work.
Yeah, it's great. You can spend an hour a day earning money instead of sitting on 275. Yeah. Well, for me.
Well, that's you chose to live in Pinellas, not us.
Yes,
I will say that.
Well, speaking of Pinellas too, I mean, it's funny how the whole single-use plastic argument all of a sudden got real quiet since coronavirus has been around, especially like in Pinellas where they banned the use of plastic straws. I mean, think about it. I mean, they've been bashing single-use plastic all this time. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the ways that some of this stuff is getting transferred is through poor washing of cups and silverware and stuff like that for those people who are still going out to restaurants and things. And so, it's... it's certainly not playing well for environmentalists because I think it's only exacerbating. Think about it. It's increased shipping. So deliveries, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, all the shipping, cardboard, plastic, I mean, you name it. And then all the delivery stuff, styrofoam, again, single-use plastics. I mean, this coronavirus thing, what I don't think anybody's really talking about is the environmental impact that it's having because of what it's forced us into, in terms of a lifestyle.
Many UPS stores were closed on Sundays, but because FedEx extended their hours on Sundays, the UPS decided to open on Sundays, so we just have more options and more times to ship, and people have more time to ship.
People are going to figure it out. They're going to figure out what's going to happen. I mean, people thought that they were not going to travel for Thanksgiving, and we had record numbers for Thanksgiving traveling. Christmas is going to be just as big. I'm already looking for a New Year's Eve party to attend. So like these things are already going to happen. And and now we have friends that are visiting us in California, from California, New York, and they're going to stay here for a month or two, and because they want to experience life back. And I'm okay with that. I think it's perfectly fine to do that. I will say this though, with the shipping and the FedEx and everything else, I don't have to rebox gifts. I get it. I take the personal stuff out. I wrap it. We're good to go. Like this is perfect.
Yeah.
So are you throwing a party on New Year's Eve and inviting all of our guests that are listening right now?
Well, because we're not friends.
Yard signs New Year's Eve party.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We will be having it at the Elevate office.
We're remote. It's 2020.
And you've been remote for a while because you had a little bit of an office.
Well, I mean, I have an office, but we don't have people in there. I just like mail and stuff.
Perfect. We can put people in there to party.
No, it's tough.
I thought when I first started hearing about and we've known each other forever.
Yeah.
But
high school, baby.
I know. Sickles. But when I first heard about your work model, I was like, that's interesting that they don't have that, because I would think about the camaraderie, about people being in the same room. But then once I met your staff, and I was like, no, they already have that. They're already communicating. They're already doing what they need to get done. I'm like, yeah, you can get a lot more productivity. And now what would have taken a decade for all of us of other companies to do had to get done in a month, figuring it all out. And this is really moved the needle of how to do business. I love it. I think it's a great way to innovate and move people online.
Yeah, I think people, networking wise, they like the interaction, the social interaction. So we always said, show up to the events and make connections, and then whatever writing you have to do where you like to write the best.
Yeah.
All right, thank you everybody for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. I usually tell you at the top of the show, but I did forget to mention all the different ways that you can catch the show. Of course, right now we are currently broadcasting live to YouTube as well. You can find all of our previous episodes as well. And then if you want an audio version of the podcast to take with you, you can subscribe on pretty much all of the audio podcast platforms: Google, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, and Google. No, did I say Google? There we go. Apple, Google, Audible, Amazon, and Spotify. All right. So make sure you sign up for the audio version of our podcast. And if you don't mind, just hit that share button right there real quick while you're watching. Our second topic, which was kind of mixed in there a little bit, which was the vaccine. Now, I know, Anibal, you had some numbers as to how this is going to get distributed. But again, the big question is, do you or do you not take the vaccine? I'm not like super consistent about vaccines, the flu vaccine. Obviously I did all my childhood vaccines, but again, hit or miss with the flu vaccine for me. So I don't know that I'm going to go through with a COVID vaccine, even if it is readily available. But it doesn't sound like we're going to get a whole lot of them, right?
So, and I think Aakash might know the exact number of what we're getting in Florida, but from what I know right now, that Pfizer's approval will be happening on Thursday, and then Moderna's approval will be happening early next week. And once they get approved, they will start probably that day, they'll start issuing vaccines, because those vials have already been are being sent now to the hospitals, which I think is something.
It's funny how that works.
I know. Well, that's warp speed. So before it couldn't happen all at once, which is what's happening now. It was, you had to do the testing, and then you had to submit all that information to the FDA, correct? FDA. And then the FDA would take a few months to figure out and review and everything else. And then that's when they would give the yay or nay, and months after, and almost sometimes even a year. But from what we've been told by what's happening in the UK, which already got theirs approved, and by other agencies, is that every time there's a data dump of documentation, it's given to the FDA to review at the same time. So there's no surprises, there's no delay. And then Moderna has been producing their vials for the vaccine for months, knowing that instead of waiting for it to get approved and then make all the bunch, they've been doing it ahead of time.
So if you toss them, it doesn't work, but it's good to have it there as a bank in case
Correct.
In the likely event that it does work.
Yes. And so both of them are showing a great progress. We have, I think, 2 more coming down the pike. They haven't announced yet requesting emergency usage, but I am really excited to see how this is gonna show. And again, warp speed was done by the Trump administration. The military are the ones that are issuing the actual control of the substance. And I believe I think Moderna is issuing it to the hospitals and other facilities themselves, whereas Pfizer has used a third party.
Yeah, in Florida, there's 5 hospitals that are going to get the first take on it. I believe it's 2 in Tampa, Advent Health and Tampa General Hospital. 1 in South Florida, it's in Broward. And then 1 in Jacksonville, and I can't remember the 5th one. But the governor's been pretty diligent, saying that as soon as we get it, those 5 hospitals will get to choose how to disseminate.
Interesting, though, that, again, Tampa being, I would say, the 3rd largest metro, but we would get 2 hospitals with vaccines versus South Florida, which is just massive. I mean, West Palm all the way down to Miami is just one solid, unit, basically. And I mean, I wonder how that's going to play out, and what was that decision based on, but I mean, was it average age? Was it, I wonder, you know what I mean?
I think the governor visited almost every hospital during this pandemic. He went to a press conference with every physician, and it might be the level 1 status of each hospital. And also Advent Health System is also Orlando. I mean, Advent Health is the Central Florida hospital system.
Yeah. So they might distribute it.
Yeah, it might be just
to their other locations.
But I mean, I think that's good. That's good for Tampa General Hospital, at least here, because, they're a teaching hospital with USF. And so that partnership is strong. And I think we'll learn a lot for sure on how we do, and the world's going to be watching us.
Right. I think Florida's going to do a great job with the rollout. I think the way the initial phase 1 is showing healthcare workers and those that are in long-term facilities, which I think is probably the most vulnerable in our society, those that have the weakened immune system.
Absolutely.
And those that are dealing with individuals that have the disease on the most time should be the ones that get the vaccine first.
That's going to solve about 90% of the problem. I mean, 80% of the deaths are in that category.
Correct.
People that are working with those people. So it makes the most sense. And I think we're going to see this thing go from being the level that we're seeing, the level of seriousness we're seeing, to a much more something that we're used to in society,
Which needs to happen. I think this, yes, it is starting to ramp up. The virus is starting to spread a little bit more. People are meeting each other a little bit more. That's that time. In Florida, what happens is when it rains, it gets cold. And that drop of the weather is what gets everyone sick because you're not used to it. It rained yesterday at Disney. And so, it
rained on your parade?
It did rain on my parade. Don't get me started. I will sing the whole thing. And so I think what people need to understand that, yes, the infections are increasing. I don't think the deaths are increasing because you did the analysis to show that. And once now we have a vaccine that we can give to people when they get sick, and then they don't die, the number of cases will be relevant when it comes to the number of deaths dropping significantly.
Yeah, well, what you'll see is people who are actually at risk of dying or serious complication will be immune to it via the vaccine, and you'll see people like yourself and myself who, if we get it, it's a couple days inconvenience. You'll be out of work for a week or 2 because they say you have to be.
Well, they're already saying that now you don't have to do 14 days. Now it's 10 days. And I'll tell you, I got it over the summer. I think I was out for about, realistically, even if I stretch it, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 days. But certainly not 2 weeks.
I got it pretty bad in
that's right,
July through August. And it took almost a month for me to recover back to my normal blood to oxygen levels. But again, that was me. My wife only had a few days, and other people in our group that got sick didn't have many symptoms. So it took us a little bit longer. I know other people thank God, my mom and dad who got it also had no symptoms whatsoever, and they're in that 65 or older. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Mom.
my mom didn't get any. Yeah, my mom didn't get any symptoms either. All right, hot seat question, Anibal, are you taking the vaccine or not?
I will not take the vaccine. 1, because I already got it and I have the antibodies. And 2, I'm under 65, have no large health concerns, and do not fall under the essential workers. So I don't think it's necessary for me to get it.
No, but even let's say, a year from now when there's plenty of vaccines to go around. Are you?
I will say this. I am more than willing to take the vaccine 2 to 3 years from now because watching what happens in horror movies, either everyone will be fine or everyone's going to turn into a vampire. So
good point.
That's what's going to happen. We're going to find out real quick what happens here. And you should be allowed to have the choice. I am someone that doesn't fall. I'm out of I think so. The phase 1 is health workers, long-term residents. 1B is essential workers, educators, food, utility, fire. And then 1C is adults 65 and older and adults with high-risk medical conditions. I am none of those. So if anything, I might be like phase 7. And I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that.
VerKuilen, are you going to take the vaccine?
I think I'd rather get COVID than get the vaccine. It's not could be because I'm super afraid of it. I just think that the risk of something that's this new is not really commensurate with the benefit of me getting sick for a couple of days. The bad thing that I would experience if I got COVID was giving it to somebody. It would be giving it to somebody else, but I'm not around enough people to have to worry about that much. Life has pretty much been home, work, and I'm isolated. I'm not seeing family very often, so I don't see the risk of me giving it to somebody being that great.
Well, we deal with the flu every year, and I know people hate it when we compare the coronavirus to the flu, but
don't at me.
The flu vaccine is also not great in terms of effectiveness, because it depends what strain you get and what strain gets passed around,
and the timeliness of when you get the shot.
Yeah, and they work on that flu vaccine year round and have been for years.
Oh, it's a new strain every single year.
Right, exactly. And so I worry about again the effectiveness of even getting the vaccine.
It seems to be working pretty well, but the thing that this takes away the lie from the left, people that are super afraid that, if I've had COVID, you can possibly get it again. Well, what the hell's the point of a vaccine? If you have antibodies from the virus, how is it any different from getting the vaccine? You're basically undercutting the entire principle of immunity.
It's like people who get LASIK, they still wear glasses. I'm like, what's the point of getting LASIK?
Honestly, if I get LASIK, I probably will still wear glasses.
That talking point has been moot for so long, and people just let it fly over their heads. They don't really realize how immunity works. The one thing that did concern me as far as my family goes, I did read a report last night. I didn't verify it, so obviously this is something I have to look into more. Part of what concerns me is verifying what's true and what's not nowadays.
It's so difficult.
Obviously, I'm one to go read the white papers from these companies and see what's going on, but I read that someone who was involved in the development of one of these vaccines saying there is a protein that can cause infertility in women. And that, for me, I'm planning on starting a family in the next couple of years. I don't want my family to either not be started in the first place or have to wait a couple of years because of that. But the thing is, you have these organizations, these fact-checking organizations saying, this person didn't say that. But then you go read it, and the person didn't expressly say that. But what they said, you can imply what they meant with it. So it's so startling to have people like Snopes and PolitiFact and places like that saying, no, this is wrong. And this could be one of the biggest factors as far as people's family life in the next decade.
Yeah. Well, that's the major reason why a lot of people are not going to take this vaccine is because they don't know what the adverse effects truly are going to be. It's not the immediate ones that people are worried about. It's the 1, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road that we don't know about yet.
It's just scary to think people will take these kind of things and manipulate them for politics to make their side look good or make their lockdowns or mask wearing look good, and without any regard for the actual impotency or not being able to have kids. That is way worse than getting coronavirus.
Yes.
The fact that people are willing to compromise that to prove their point kind of disgusts me in the point of politics.
On that note, Aakash Patel, are you taking the vaccine? Single man Aakash Patel, bachelor on the prowl.
Allegedly.
I will say that if the vaccine comes out and let the essential workers and everyone else, the long-term folks, get it first, I'll get it eventually, because I get the flu shot every year in October, the first week, and I just didn't been doing that for years. And the reason why is I travel a lot, and then when you travel a lot and I go international and stuff, you just don't know what's going to happen international.
Correct.
I trust our country. Other countries, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Airports, lounges, even places like taxi cabs in other countries aren't the cleanliest, right? So logistically, since I do travel a lot, and my grandfather's 91, and I'll tell you, I Thanksgiving I went and got tested. I had antibodies before, and then my antibodies went away this.
So you had COVID antibodies before and you don't have them anymore.
Correct.
Interesting.
So because it expires after, they say, about 70 days. And so I got tested in September before I went to Colorado. Positive for antibodies, negative for COVID. So I just didn't know I had it.
So it's so interesting because I remember when again, my mother and dad are in that area where they're 65 older with health conditions, and for Mother's Day was coming up, and this was during the huge pandemic. Lauren and I said, like, literally shut it all down for like 3 weeks, and then got tested, shut down again to make sure that we were okay to see our parents. We were doing the responsible thing and making sure that if we want to see our loved ones, we made sure that we isolated, we took the test, and then we isolated again, and we were safe. We were making sure that our parents were safe. I think that what's happening now are people. I don't know anyone that is willy-nilly just walking around without a mask in the middle of Walmart. I don't know these people. And but yet they're saying these people are happening in California and New York. And I'm like, we have conservatives in California and New York that are pushing back on this. Anywhere I go in Florida, people are wearing a mask when they're inside. Now, are we wearing a mask right now? No. But
well, I know you're safe, and I know you're safe.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is we all have to trust who you're with.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there are people that hang out with people they don't know where they go. And you just have to trust that they're in a good state of mind. I know you guys are going to wear a mask if you go to Walmart today. I mean, I just know that.
I don't.
I am surprised though because like Anibal, I was actually at Disney Springs this weekend, and even at a more relaxed environment, right? Because there's no ticketed entrance, right? Like there is for the theme parks at Disney Springs. They completely changed their entry system, so now it's like coupled with security. Right. It's a bit of a pain, but I am surprised at how well people have adapted to the mask restrictions. I didn't like that. I actually have one of those, what they call the neck gaiters.
The ones that spray COVID further.
Apparently, because they won't let you wear those or the handkerchiefs or a bandana. You had to wear kind of the cloth mask. And myself and another guy that was going in around with me at around, he ended up having to go to the machine to buy one. I fortunately had a backup mask in my pocket for just such an occasion. But I have been pretty impressed at how well people have adapted to it. I mean, like it or not. But I felt, and I've heard lots of people say this, I felt safer at the Magic Kingdom in the Disney theme parks than I did at Target or Walmart or any of those deals. And so let's go ahead and keep it rolling here as we, again, thank you for watching. This is the Yard Sign, most important relevant podcast in politics. And we've got some very exciting goodies that we're going to be announcing very, very soon. I think we're just going to do maybe one big announcement at the beginning of the year with a whole bunch of new stuff regarding the show. So stay tuned for that. We've obviously done our part here in discussing COVID and hopefully not get blocked by YouTube in the process. But let's get back to politics at its purest form, as we are now seeing people getting ready for the 2022 elections, despite what's happening in Georgia. We are already seeing stories, little bait stories. It's funny because we had a big one, I think, that came out today, and these are always feelers. You know what I mean? These candidates, these campaigns, they kind of put these out there to say, just to kind of test the waters and see what kind of a response they have out there. Let's go ahead and start with the one we were talking about off air before the show started, which is District 13. Charlie Crist, currently in that seat, and Paulina Luna, unsuccessful in the general election, although she won pretty handily in the primary election. Rumor is she's going to give it another go. Is that right?
People want her to run again.
Tell me how you really feel, Chris.
People want her to run again. I think the numbers were something like 52% for Chris and 44% for her.
It's 25,000 more people for Charlie.
So I don't know what Republicans or Anna would do to gain that percentage. I really don't know what strategy we'd employ to do that. I think that the campaign that she ran is not going to appeal to anyone more in the future, because what we had...
You can't run a 2020 campaign in 2022. You don't have Trump. You don't have that level of excitement. You don't even have general election excitement because these are midterms now.
But these will be federal. There are some federal elections going to be on the ballot.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is the momentum's not there. The excitement's not there.
I ran in 2018 for that reason.
Yeah, right. No, look, and does a candidate that is so kind of red meat like Anna Paulina Luna for Republicans, does it work in a midterm election? when like that's just been the noise for, again, the 2020 election, does that continue to work in 2022? And I don't see it happening. I mean, and Charlie is a juggernaut in that district. I mean, he is tough to beat, not so much because of the numbers in the district. The numbers work in the district to make it a winnable seat, but Charlie Crist is uniquely, set for that district because he was born and raised in it.
So there are two things going for Anna Paulina, which is redistricting, which is happening before the midterms, and it's a midterm. So really, the number of people that come out for midterm elections, cut it by half, and it really is who can get out the vote. I agree with you that she cannot run the same race that she did from a general to a midterm. I will say that she might still be able to pull it off in a midterm with more time to build her base. We do have the issue that she was kind of a transplant, and that did rub some people off the wrong way. But if she stays,
especially when you have a hometown candidate,
yeah. But if redistricting and she's able to move the needle somehow, I think she can make it.
But do you think any conservatives or independents that were going to vote conservative did in this election? It was a very, very polarized election. I think panelists did a very good job of getting voters out. I don't see how you get more voters out for a midterm. People.
Well, what hurt her is her two opponents in the primary that lost, Mackey and Buck, didn't even come out and endorse her.
Correct.
When they lost in that primary. So
well, George Buck was
didn't show unity.
Yeah, I don't think she wanted that endorsement.
But my point
Mackey's might have helped.
A huge difference. But my point is I think if she goes on, here's the thing: she's got a lot of social media followers. We all know that.
Yes.
So I think she'll go on some TV channel, be a pundit, raise her profile nationally, and then she'll get some national conservatives to back her. You'll have to have the governor and the senators backing her originally,
which gets her the money
because she'll be the nominee no matter what. It'll get her the money, and I think she's got a chance. But you're right, Johnny. I mean, Charlie's a hometown hero, and you always in Pinellas it's an older voter population. Sorry, no offense.
No,
I just think as we get back to normal politics, which by normal I mean a non-Trump environment, I think a candidate like Amanda Mackey becomes much more attractive, and also again, I think she had a genuine shot. She raised a lot of money. She makes a very intellectual argument for why she is qualified for that seat,
and she left the county as soon as she lost.
And she's not from here. Yeah. They're all. That's
what pissed off a lot of people after the election.
Well, she's working on some of this recount and stuff and all that.
I'm sorry, people. Yeah, now, but that wasn't before. When
she literally left the county.
Got on a plane and left the county as soon as the primary was over. I don't know if she moved or not, but people noticed that she disappeared from the entire community.
She could help Anna Paulina. I think that's what most
people. But because they're very different candidates. They're just incredibly different candidates.
But if you want the party to win, you got to help your candidate.
You got to help the candidate.
I mean, look, I lost in my primary and I had to come out and endorse my opponent.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
No, I get it.
But you get kudos.
You got to do it.
You get kudos from the party for doing it.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is the right thing to do.
So I didn't know that Amanda Mackey left. That's really unfortunate. I did like her as far as her resume, as far as the way she spoke. That's unfortunate. It's a case of a transplant coming into the district and running and being like, hey, I've gone to restaurant XYZ and I'm just like you.
Well, and that's the thing. I think there's a huge difference between electing an activist and electing someone who, again, understands policy, understands Congress. She's worked in D.C. She knows the ins and outs of that monster, and she would have hit the ground running. And I think she would have been solid policy wise. I don't think really on a vote by vote basis, she probably wouldn't have been much different than Anna Paulina Luna. It was just different packaging.
Yes.
And Amanda Mackey knows and understands policy, whereas Anna Paulina Luna was more about waving the flag and beating the drum and rallying the Trump voters. And I don't think that's going to work in 2 years.
But I will say everyone was very surprised after that primary how much of a difference the gap was between Anna and Mackey. And that was really surprising for a lot of people. Again, if Anna Paulina can get the people out to vote during the for the midterms, she wins that county.
That's the problem, but where we are politically, though, right now, is that you can have someone like an Amanda Mackey that really fires up the base, really gets the voters out, but then has positioned themselves so far to the right that when they try to run in a general election in the purple district like Pinellas County, they're sunk because they can't move to the center.
So as far as what you're saying about fundraising, I thought that she fundraised very well. She actually made a buttload of money. I think she matched or beat Charlie Crist in the last quarter.
Right, but you got to remember, the loyalists are loyalists. No matter what, you're seeing his name on the ballot for life. I mean, Charlie's been a state senator, a governor, and a congressman, so they know his name. So, and no matter what you do, you're loyal.
But what do you think she lacked in fundraising? I think she couldn't have fundraised a whole lot better than she did.
But name ID is the key. Name ID is the key to the game.
Yes.
So she didn't get in front of enough people to change to flip their vote.
Yeah, for that particular district, it's a multiple run effort for a Republican to try to unseat Charlie Crist. It's not a.
There's just nothing there. I can't point.
I know that you don't like the idea. I know you don't like the idea of people running.
Other than liberal versus a conservative, I don't know that there's really anything there that you can truly hit Charlie on. I mean, other than the obvious
jellyfish politically.
Well, no, yes, that's absolutely right. But that's also who Charlie Crist is.
Have you?
I mean, there would have to be some sort of big misstep, some scandal.
People rather know your congressman than not.
Yeah.
They don't know what your congressman does, but they rather know him. And Charlie is a very friendly guy.
I know you. I've met Charlie Crist. A lot of us have met him. Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with any of his policies, but you know what? It is difficult to not vote for that man because he has the kind of political. He's very in tune with the political machine. He knows how to talk to people.
He knows the charm. He has that X factor.
The charm is amazing.
It's the same thing that people used to say about Bill Clinton. They said, man, you can disagree with his politics all you like, but the minute that you meet him, he's just very charming. He's very likable. He's very relatable. And that's a powerful thing, especially when you're a hometown guy and the people that may vote down ticket Republican are going to cross the aisle for Charlie Crist because they grew up with him and they run into him at Publix and they see him downtown, and even if it is at a gay bar.
And that's what I'm saying, that it requires someone to actually live to be in the county and dedicate themselves to that county. So if Anna Paulina can do that and just dedicate herself to the county, I think she could start to erode some of that trust. But again, and I'll say this because it sounds weird, and others have had this situation. I run into Charlie Crist all the time at the airport when we're doing DC and back, when we used to go to conferences. And it's so difficult not to get a picture with him. As a Republican, you still got to do it because you feel compelled to talk to the person. I can't vote for him, so it doesn't matter. You're never going to see me vote for Charlie Crist when he wasn't a Republican, only when he was a Republican. But it is difficult to fight someone that has such a good pedigree when it comes to politics.
Now, there was an article in the Tampa Bay Times yesterday, Johnny, about our friend David Jolly.
That's right.
In 2022, he might run for Senate.
Yes.
For 2024, might run for governor.
Yeah,
governor or Senate. Sorry, both in 2022.
Yeah, both are open.
They're putting feelers out there. And now for a long time, and for those of you who may not be in the Tampa Bay area, but may know David Jolly because he was on MSNBC for a long time.
He had definitely an anti-Trumper.
Well, yeah, and then he also had a radio show for a long time. And I remember even as far back as 2 years ago, maybe more, was already talking about primarying Senator Rubio.
Yeah.
And I remember that not only because I was listening to his radio show and I consider him a friend, but also that I was working for Senator Rubio, and it's ludicrous to me because the one known factor that widely known about David and I would say it if you were standing here in this room is that he hates to fundraise. That is the one thing that everybody knows about him. And when he was a congressman, he put out the STOP Act, which did nothing but stop his political career. But it basically pulled the curtain back on the NRCC. There were all kinds of media coverage about it because
60 Minutes
it exposed, it exposed how much fundraising congressmen and women have to do
on both
to keep
sides.
on both sides to keep their offices. And so at that point, the NRCC says, if you don't like how the game is played, then why don't you kind of sit this one out? And they let him hang himself out to dry for the re-election campaign, which is how Charlie Crist ended up in that office. So I don't see him making a move for the Senate race. I certainly don't see him making a move for governor unless he goes to the Democratic Party, and even then, I think he'd have a really hard time.
I don't think he
doesn't do it as an independent. You're not going to win anything.
He does it as an independent.
Yeah, I do.
I think he does it. The Democrats are never going to accept him. They do not like him whatsoever. Democrats, if he's going for governor, Democrats do not elect governors from the center part of Florida. Florida. It's either South Miami or it's up in the sticks of Tallahassee. I don't know why, but Democrats do that every single time.
Yep.
Whereas
For the
Republicans do
Democrats,
different. Yeah, Democrats do it all the time. Whereas Republicans, it's usually more in the middle and in the more the rural counties.
Dunedin region.
Yeah, I mean, it really is weird. But he's not going to run as a Republican. He doesn't want to do that anymore. As an independent, he could run. He could be the face of the third party if that's what he's thinking
I think
for
he's got a good
2024.
chance
But you're not going to pull a majority. You're never going to pull a majority.
No, but that's everyone knows that. But yet independents do it every single.
And he's
cycle.
not pulling Republican votes. He's only going to hurt the Democrats.
I'm fine. That's why I'm perfectly
And
fine
they
with
would
him running.
happily and they would happily stroke a check to
let
have
him
sit
run
it
as
out.
an independent. I'm perfectly fine with that completely because that people need to learn how to run in Florida. And if you don't understand it and you're going to keep on doing the same thing, do it every single time. I don't care. I don't have an
Look,
issue with it.
he's an incredibly smart guy. He was a chief of staff, for a long time.
speaker.
He knows DC really well. Again, he's great at policy, but again, it's kind of weird. Like, I think he has this love-hate relationship with Congress and DC. It's like, he hates how it's run, but he feels like he needs to be a part of it. And now he doesn't really have a home politically. And other than stealing away votes from the Democrats, I don't see him really making much progress.
Do you remember where he's at in the article? I think he's like in Tennessee or one of the Appalachians.
Yeah, he's in some one of the states. Just
Yeah, he was out hunting. There were some pictures.
Well, he made a
Maine,
comment.
I thought it was Maine.
Yeah, he made a comment to where like they're stashed up there because of COVID. And
Correct.
he has a young family and everything else. Which I met the wife. She's a very lovely woman. So again, I don't knock him if he wants to run as independent. Go for it whatsoever. I think people think just because there are more independents now than ever before that there is a forming of a third party. Where you look
viable.
at people that are independents and how they vote down ticket. Like they are still either swayed left or right. It's just they don't want to be labeled, which is such a millennial thing right now. So I mean, they don't want to be labeled, and because of that, they still vote party line. So if you would think that they were independent, it would be kind of cherry picking in a Christmas tree with their. But no, it's still down ticket. So I don't see it as a legitimate thing when you say independent.
Now, look, and judging at some of the wins that they had, again, Republicans picked up, 14 seats around the country?
14, 17?
And
and two in
those
Miami.
are going to be battlefields, man. Don't sleep on it. I mean, now the advantage that Republicans have in Florida is the legislative advantage in Tallahassee, but also that the party chair is stepping down, and so they're going to have new leadership, and that's going to be new restructuring. I'm sure whoever the new chairperson is probably going to clean house, as they should, because they got killed all across the state. They certainly didn't deliver for
they
Biden.
were embarrassing. They took PPP money. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
it was
horrible.
very embarrassing.
Well, Miami reelected their chair for the Democrat chair again. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but I do remember he won re-election again. So they're letting it happen again because again, if you lose 2 congressional districts in Miami, I don't know how on earth you're allowed to do anything in politics anymore, and especially in Miami. It was
Right.
such an
Those are
interesting
strongholds.
concept. Exactly. So I know that the Republican Party is looking for at least 2 or 3 more seats in Florida somehow, especially after redistricting. I don't think it would be smart to go after Marco Rubio. He has the entire North Cuba vote. It would be ridiculous.
He's done a good job for the
Yeah.
state. I mean, that's what you want in a senator, someone who's a cheerleader for your state.
Yeah.
Well, and on that topic, I mean, this rumor has kind of been circulating out there for some time. Again, there was some speculation that under Trump administration that Senator Rubio might get appointed to some cabinet position. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. And the rumor was, and I think may still be, and I wouldn't be surprised, he's egotistical enough to do it, which is that Matt Gaetz might primary Marco Rubio. Now, that to me seems like a much more likely scenario and a very combative primary. Now, would Matt Gaetz want to do it? I think he's got a high profile enough now to make him a viable candidate for that seat. But it would be incredibly hard for him to win South Florida, which Marco Rubio consistently wins down there.
So-
And so, I mean, that would be an ugly matchup. I'd hate to see it.
I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see it.
You won't see it. I mean,
But yeah, I think
will
the
not
powers
see
that be will
It's just-
kind of hold
Why
them
do you
off.
Akash, what do you think?
Matt and I were Florida State University College Model UN debate team mates, and as
There
you
you
know,
go.
he endorsed my campaign. And
Yeah,
and,
I remember that.
And Matt's got a safe seat. He loves North Florida. He does great for his district, and he works hard to help get other candidates elected. I cannot see him challenge a sitting Republican senator.
I think it would look horrible for his image if he does challenge a sitting Republican senator. I also think because of the Trump loss, that the field is different now. Now it's hold the Senate, try to get back the House in the midterm. So
but Trump's still going to be hot in 2 years. I mean, if Trump's going to be traveling the country, endorsing candidates, doing all kinds of rallies and campaign events.
That's if he wants to run in 2024.
Which he's already said he does. And I hope he doesn't. I mean, and I know Republicans are going to hate me for saying that. I think, again, he's going to be too old, and I hate retreads in general. I mean,
we'll see what he is like. If he's like Joe Biden and trying to go through sentences without, getting through them, then we'll probably not, put him on the ticket.
Biden's already injured and he hasn't even become president yet. Like, I don't know how he's going to survive.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the energy Trump.
He grabbed his dog's tail coming out of the shower, which how the hell does that happen? That's a really weird.
Why is your dog in the shower?
No, next to the shower.
So like the door was open?
I don't know.
I've
never grabbed a dog's tail while I was naked before, so.
These images are getting ridiculous now.
Well, again, you're supposed to pull the dog tail first and then take the shower. Come on, people. Seriously.
So I guess the last thing I had to say on 2022 is we have a big job as far as the culture wars go and as far as getting ourselves a presence in the media as conservatives. I read a Daily Wire story. There was a large poll agency that basically asked voters in swing states about their knowledge of certain stories. And it turns out most people had no freaking clue about the damaging things that would have hurt Biden. They had no freaking clue about the things that were a boon to Trump, about the economy, about the jobless,
what I've been saying for the last 3 shows.
So yeah, we have I'm a huge Daily Wire fan. They're actually getting into journalism. They're getting into entertainment. They're getting into all the things that we've been excluded from, is like as far as legacy media goes as conservatives. And we have to have, apart from that, other efforts in place to get our message out there, because
that's part of my motivation behind this show was because you had a juggernaut in the Young Turks, and God, I wish and hope that someday we could get to that level of visibility and influence. But these guys have been. The Young Turks have been around for what, 15, 20 years? These guys,
getting all that
they're not young anymore.
Getting all that caliphate money from Iran.
These guys are
several $1 million from them. So.
Yeah, these guys are pushing late 40s now. And they've been doing, this podcast there that, again, has been incredibly influential, especially on the digital platforms where your younger voters tend to get their information from. So, it's you're absolutely right.
But we're seeing that now, that there is a push for young conservatives to start podcasts, to start huge influencers on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on all that stuff. It just takes time to cultivate. Just in the Tampa Bay area, we have multiple social media individuals that are starting to build the profile, and that's starting to build the Tampa Bay area as a conservative spot for podcasters and for conservative social media players. And that's a little bit of I wouldn't have thought it was Florida. It would be Tampa. I was thinking like maybe San Diego or maybe Las Vegas, that has they're starting to have conservative movements there. I was not expecting here in Florida, but
a lot of those young conservative influencers have moved here. We've got Drano. We've had Brittany on the show, who's with Turning Point USA. They've done a huge job in turning young people into influencers on social platforms and capitalizing on that. And kudos to them, because they're getting the job done. I think it helps to see people of different interests and different backgrounds, and they are. You look at some of these influencers that are out there right now, and they come from every walk of life. And kudos to those organizations that are out there looking for these people and putting them in a position to be influential.
Well, the last thing I'll say on that is I don't think influencers are going to reach moderates or people who are middle-aged. I think that conservatives need a presence on a network like CNN, like MSN, like NBC. We need to have that desk news outlet look. And basically, if we can even pull having objective reporting, that sounds far-fetched, I know, but if we can get that and have people actually decide on the issues and not have them obscured and hidden by the mainstream media, will be in a much better position. That's what we should really swing for in the next 5 years.
But you get that now that Trump's out of office. You get CNN allowing for a conservative. You get MSNBC. Because now you don't have the boogeyman to fight every single night. What does MSN do?
They didn't hate
what does
Trump.
MSN
They
do?
hated conservatives.
No, they
still hate conservatives.
They hated Trump, and they also don't like conservatives. But there will, at least we've had in the past, conservative pundits on MSNBC and CNBC, and even CNN. But now that Trump is gone, they're going to have to go back to that because who are they going to talk about? They're not going to talk trash to Biden for the next 4 years.
They're going to kiss his ass for the next 5 years or 4 years or
however long he's alive.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you again for watching the Yard Sign Quiz. Shout out to everybody in our comment section. Very healthy comment section there. Sherry Denham doing God's work up in Georgia. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Hector, better late than never, buddy. Good to see you. Hector in the comment section. Hello to Laura. And let's see, we had Ms. Stewart and Lance. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. And we do read your comments and feel free to shoot us questions as well if you want to interject them into the conversation. And don't forget, you can sign up, subscribe for the audio version of our podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon platforms. Man, that's a mouthful. But even bigger announcements coming for 2021. Our final topic, we're already running behind, but we'll squeeze one more topic in for the day. Biden's first 100 days. We've gotten already some hints as to what he's going to do. What of these things do you announced or not? What of these things announced or not are you more closely watching in terms of what he's going to try to pull off in the first 100 days?
I think today he did reappoint, I guess, or appoint Vivek Murthy, who was a Surgeon General before under the Obama administration. He brought him back to be Surgeon General, which I think was a good move because he is going to give him a larger role in the COVID response. And people like Vivek Murthy. He's a young Floridian, and I think he's from South Florida originally, or has some sort of connection to Florida. And he did a good job under Obama. And I think Biden was smart to bring him back. So at least in the first 100 days, he did one thing right.
But that's the big that was the big one of the big things that, again, a lot of Republicans and independents had against Biden is that there was nothing original. There was nothing new. This guy's been in Congress. He's been in government his whole life. And basically all he's doing is trying to rebuild the Obama administration.
Well, and it's true, but at some points, he's taking only the good. At least that's the hope. We'll see what happens after the first couple appointments after this week.
VerKuilen, or go Anibal.
No,
Anibal, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm liking the fact that he is not going to touch the tax in regards to the things that the tax cuts that Trump had already talked about. He's made comments he's not going to touch it. I think the stimulus package might be still around $900 billion. I don't think it's going to touch $1 trillion. I hear some pundits asking for $4 trillion. I think that's absolutely absurd. I don't think we should be spending or printing any more money. But it's going to take, I think, I think they were talking about maybe $1 or $2 billion to be able to run the vaccine program itself for the COVID rollout. So that's something that's going to have to get appropriated through the Congress now that the scary Trump is no longer president. I think what's going to happen is the hypocrisy of Nancy Pelosi is out in full dress, because she's now saying that she wasn't willing to work with them before the election, but now the election's over, she's willing to work with them, which it was just her not wanting Trump to get a win at the end of the day. So I think, honestly, it would be funny. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be funny. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make it the first 100 days. I'm gonna honestly say that. I wouldn't be surprised.
That's harsh.
No, wow. Knowing how quickly Obama turned gray, I do not, that level of stress, do not see Joe Biden being able to handle it.
They're already taking wax out.
Well, to that note, though, okay, really weird that video that has gone viral where he basically said that if he disagreed with Kamala on anything on any fundamental principle, that he'd develop some disease and die or resign.
Resign, yes.
Yeah, it's very weird.
That's a really bizarre quote right there.
That was really bizarre. He was talking about an instance in which he said if he had a fundamental disagreement with Barack Obama while Barack Obama was president, that he would develop a disease, per se, and resign. But he made that reference in relation to Kamala Harris, who is the vice president. That's not how it works. Like,
Right.
he didn't say Kamala's going to develop a disease or something and resign.
Yeah.
That was the curtain has been pulled back unwillingly by him in so many instances. And I think his dementia, he can't even hide the fact that he's a Trojan horse for Kamala Harris, effectively.
That's what it seems like.
My biggest concern with Joe Biden is the fiscal policy that's going to ensue. So one of my biggest pet peeves is the student loan debt forgiveness. Basically, they want to have the federal government pay $10,000 everyone that has student loan debt, their personal debt. So personally, I worked a job for 20 hours a week while going to school for 50 hours a week and volunteering and learning how to do a second career at the same time. If I can do that, you can work your way through college. I don't need to pay for your decisions, especially when I worked so hard. And people like my stepfather, he busted his ass in freezing cold and blistering hot temperatures on top of a roof to put our family position they were in. He doesn't deserve, after his hard labor, to be paying for your cushy office job, for you to drink on the weekends when you're in college. It's absolutely absurd. It's appalling that people think they deserve this kind of thing, this kind of payout from everyday Americans. From the guy that changes your tires, you deserve to tax him extra to pay for your MBA.
Well, and to your point, I mean, again, I posted a story that had nothing to do with politics, but it was a young family that paid off $96,000 worth of debt in 3 years. I mean, again, if you budget yourself and you bust your butt like every other person has to, you can do it. And so this whole we can never pay these off, and they're just going to be around for a lifetime. And
Sacrifice.
it's right. You have
You
to
both know
sacrifice.
this very well.
And we're such a consumer-driven society that nobody wants to. Yeah, nobody wants to sacrifice their consumer habits, for the sake of their own financial stability.
I could never imagine getting behind a program like that, just because I know so many individuals that work their butts off to pay back their loans or work through college to do what had to get done. And because I know all those situations, and I know people that never went to college and they're busting their butts to do what they need to do to provide for their families, me telling someone that they have to pay, that the government should pay off the student loans, is like me telling the guy that anyone that's in the service industry or that it doesn't have that hasn't had college education, that they're going to pay off your college loans. You're telling the lower income individuals of this country to pay off your loans. That is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And I have a huge problem with these people trying to say, well, it's difficult for me, or I didn't know. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to struggle in order to get to a place of prominence or a place of earning a good wage, which it perverts the entire incentive structure. You should not risk going into $100,000 in debt for a $30,000 a year job.
Right.
You have to be able to calculate these things, and having personal accountability for those things is what makes that happen.
And so the counter argument now is saying that, well, we should have colleges that are free for individuals, which I don't have a problem with if we want to figure out that policy. But there's no way in heck I'm going to say that it's perfectly okay for the federal government to be paying off people's student loans, because then the inequity is going to blow up. Are you going to tell me someone that did pay off their college tuition, are you going to reimburse them for what they did? Or
I would love
are you
to
going
be
to write? Are you
reimbursed.
going to write a check for someone that didn't go to college? Like this is the most unequitable.
So now you're doubling down on those who had the privilege of going to a 4-year university or college.
You're incentivizing poor financial decisions in favor of, I guess, disciplining people who did do what they were supposed to do.
Well, then crime increases, and then jails increase, and then it's a whole societal.
I mean, that would do more damage than eliminating the minimum wage in terms of economic disparity.
Yeah, and so I think we should have free college. It's called YouTube.com. I've learned how to be a woodworker. I've learned camera work. I've learned editing. I've learned probably 3 or 4 professions that I could make a living on. Do one of those things and teach yourself. You can do so much in this world with such little resources. And even if that's not your final career, you can use that to pay your way in the world at a better rate than you would at base level labor.
That's backed even by the great Elon Musk. So,
but I blame profile. I blame the university system, the college system, for allowing themselves to get so bloated and almost act like a summer camp for kids that get out of high school for 4 years. There's so much focus on having the dorm life and everything else. And again, no one told you to go to Columbia and spend $100,000 for education. No one told you to do that. No one forced you to do that. But yet people think that's appropriate. Now, do I think schools like Harvard should be lowering their tuition? No, because Harvard is a private institution. They can do whatever they want to do.
That's
but
right.
USF and
State
Florida
where I went,
State,
great school.
I don't believe in Gator Country, so I will not mention that school. But and Miami, I know, and Miami is a private institution. Again,
Right.
those are choices that people are making. And even the point, maybe I can go get behind if you work in a tier 1 school or you work at like a tier 1 hospital and you're paying back society for the debt that you incurred. I could totally see that. But even then, only like 50 people a year get their debts relieved because of that program. It's so difficult to get it done.
But if you're providing a service that is worth something, society's paying you anyway. You don't need to do it via the government. You don't need to take money from someone via the government and give it to somebody else because they're doing something.
That's what I'm saying. I think the conversation needs to be larger. And I think once people realize that the plumber that didn't go to school but is still making $100,000 a year is now going to pay for some kid that decided that basket weaving was their choice of desire, then things are going to hit the fan and people are going to get even more upset. You're just making people more and more upset. This can go even back to what's happening with Corona. Do what I say, not what I do. Well, then people are going to get upset about it. When you have the medical industry talking about how you really, like, everyone has to wear masks. Well, not everyone has to wear. Like, there's no consistency, and that's what pisses people off.
So what's your Anibal? You haven't given us your prediction, or at least what you're going to be watching in the first 100 days.
I didn't. I don't think he's gonna. I honestly, I don't. I think he's not gonna live. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, you
prediction.
said that,
You're
but I
already
mean,
your
That's
first
a bold
prediction, Cotton.
There's gonna be
buy your
boy.
stocks.
There's gonna be. I think
you're gonna have
See
the
how it
Secret
pans out for
Service waiting for us
I know.
outside.
I think whatever he does is not going to jeopardize the economy as much as people think. I think the economy is moving a lot faster and in a direction that people don't expect. Even today,
and that's the thing.
airline and cruise line companies have jumped radically today when it came to their investments. A lot of people are now looking for, okay, there's a vaccine. There's actual like light at the end of the tunnel, and that is moving people around. Now, government, a lot of government officials are like, no, we still have to be cautious and everything else, but once the vaccine's out there, it's been 6 months. You cannot tell me the lockdowns are still make any sense.
Well, and that's the
feasible.
thing.
Yeah.
How do you not look at the economy and realize that what Trump had been doing over the past 4 years is actually working?
Well,
the fact that it's bounced back so quickly, and then how do you save face and having campaigned against it for the past 2 years, then realize, oh, we'll just leave it to how it is because it's actually in pretty good shape.
What you're going to see, I think one of the points of the reaction to COVID, not COVID itself, the reaction to COVID by Democrats, was to make things look horrible for the campaign cycle. And then boom, we get into the presidential office, and boom, things have gotten better. It's like, well, things would have been shitty no matter what, and they would have gotten better no matter what. And now you're just claiming victory for the vaccine, even though it was already en route by the time you were in office. And you're going to see the financial, part of our country get better as well and get stronger again. You see them claim victory for that. I think this entire kind of overreaction to COVID was to put them in position to do this, to claim victory of all these things.
All right. Well, again, thank you to everybody for watching. It's the Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Again, I want to thank you, everybody who's been watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast on Google, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Audible platforms. That's right. You can now find us on all of those platforms. You can also find every show on Facebook and on YouTube. So please subscribe and share these episodes. I want to thank also George Monroy, who's been helping us behind the scenes, in terms of managing the audio version of this podcast. And we're going to start wrapping it up. Thank you again to Aakash Patel for joining us tonight. And we hope that you're going to come back soon.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
All right. And we'll make sure Joe Wicker's on next time when in case you're watching, Joe. We were kind of talking and asking about you. Chris VerKuilen, good to see you, buddy. Glad you're all healed up.
Yeah.
Did you bring me my chocolate chip cookies?
Oh, damn. Damn it! No, I did not.
Damn
but
it.
I did bring you a wonderful
In
opportunity.
the corner you go.
I brought you a wonderful opportunity to help Republicans retain the Senate.
Tell me
in
more.
Georgia. So essentially, the fight to keep the Senate in Republican power, to prevent things like Puerto Rico from becoming a state, to prevent things like the filibuster from being taken away, which is a huge deal as far as keeping bills in check. So basically, these 2 seats in Georgia, Kelly Loeffler and
Perdue.
David Perdue, if I'm not mistaken, their seats are going to be what determines what the Senate looks like for the next 3 or 4 years, or next 4 years.
Next 4 years. 2 years.
2 years, yeah, it's every 2 years.
So imagine the Democrats having the House, the Senate, and the presidency. I mean, they can do whatever they want if they get that. So we have to do our best as Republicans to make sure that these Republicans get into office. One way we're going to do that is, so TVYR, an organization I work with locally, we're going to be visiting Georgia in the last and first part of the year, the 31st to the 4th, to walk and campaign for these senators. This coming weekend, the Georgia GOP is putting on an event or some campaigning called Save the Senate. Go to GeorgiaFightClub.com to learn more, to register to help these people. Do what you can to make sure we don't get absolutely trounced in the next coming years with legislation. I implore you, go to GeorgiaFightClub.com to register and see what you can do. It's not that far away. You'll have fun with the Republicans there. You'll be doing the Lord's work as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, look, and shout out to Sherry for passing along that information. I mean, I'll tell you what, I got to go to Louisiana for a runoff, and that was a lot of fun. So, again, if you've never been a part of a campaign, or maybe you've only volunteered at the local level, absolutely sign up. Get to Georgia. It's a lot of fun, especially if you don't have plans for New Year's. You know, you can go and help us win a couple elections.
Well, they're doing stuff from now until the election, which I think is the 10th or something like that.
No, it's early. It's the 5th.
The 5th? Okay,
Yeah.
So until the 5th.
That's why it's till the 4th, yeah.
All right, should we do stories you're watching?
Yeah.
All right, Anibal, go first.
I am watching the civil war in Ethiopia. I think it's quite fascinating to see how that's going to play out. I'm also watching the reduction of financial stability in Hong Kong. Those are my 2. And then I'm looking for property in Argentina because they're going to devalue the peso again. So, I mean, it's good for us as Americans and people that want to live in or have spent some time in Argentina.
Let me know how
I need to go
goes.
back to Colombia.
Yeah. The dollar is trading at 140 pesos in Argentina. It's insane.
Oh, Colombia is like 3,000 pesos to the dollar.
my gosh, I'm loving it.
Amazing. VerKuilen.
I covered what I need to just now. I mean, really, the most important thing to Republicans is the culture war, what I mentioned earlier, and getting these 2 Senate seats solid red. So look at diversifying what you watch as far as the media. Turn off, the legacy TV networks and watch Daily Wire, watch Yard Sign, which is
Watch other.
I did that years ago.
watch the most irrelevant, important podcasts.
That's right.
Politics.
Share it.
All right, Aakash, what story are you watching out there?
The legislature in Tallahassee, keep it local. I think we have a session where it has some new reps and some new senators, obviously Republican dominated in both houses, and a Republican governor, but they're going to have to make some interesting choices. We've got good leadership in President Simpson and Speaker Sprowls, both local guys, and it'll be really interesting. The session will be here before you know it. Committee weeks next couple weeks.
The budget. I'm fascinated to see what the budget's going to look like because everything should be slashed compared to what happened.
Well, and to that point, what I am excited about is that seemingly everybody on the right side of the aisle is getting along, unlike maybe a couple sessions ago. So I'm excited about that. Also, a little shout out to our friend Joe Gruters, who is not only a state senator from the Sarasota area,
and a Seminole.
He's a Seminole. Also running for re-election as the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. So my endorsement to Joe, who did an amazing job, literally crisscrossing the state. I think they hit just about every county.
39 counties is what
Unbelievable.
Christian Ziegler,
That's
vice chair did.
awesome.
Fruits
Awesome.
of the labor. I will say that you can definitely see it. We had a great time in Florida that election night, and it's a lot to do with him and his leadership. So I would love to see it, and love to see him to get on the podcast. And see
They'll actually both be in Georgia this weekend doing that campaigning I was talking about.
Yes.
both Ziegler and Gruters.
Yeah.
So
Story I'm watching is BlackBerry, which is apparently still around. Just announced a huge deal with Amazon on some proprietary technology they have for automated driving, and
Can we get BlackBerry phones back?
I got some.
I would love those.
So I jumped on that stock. I bought it at a little bit of about $8 and change. So we'll see how it goes.
good.
You like hardware failure?
Thank you, Robin Hood. But I didn't even know they were around. But hey, I think any deal with Amazon is a good deal, and so I'm going to be in on that stock for the long haul. So far, I don't know if you guys have ever dabbled in Robinhood, but my Robinhood account is up 80%.
Yeah, I'm about 70%.
I love it. Yeah, easy money.
It's an interesting way that the algorithm is playing, and it moves the market, which is fascinating to see how that's happening, because a lot of millennials and a lot of Zers actually use Robinhood. So it's interesting to see it, and as long as there's no more scandals with Robinhood's leadership, I'm perfectly okay with it.
And so I'm all in on the revival of BlackBerry. All right. So thank you again, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, share, leave us some reviews. All right. And again, big news coming in the next few weeks about this very show. We appreciate you so much for watching. On behalf of Aakash, Patel, VerKuilen, and Anibal Cabrera, I'm JonnyTorres. We hope you had a great show as well as we did. We hope to see you back here next Monday, 7 o'clock. What?
Wrap it up.
Oh, wrap it up, B. Wrap it up.